So the URC and the Premiership is over. We've still got some rugby to go in the top 14, which I'll be looking at, and we've got the Super Rugby final next weekend as well. But I think the big fixture on everyone's calendar list that probably lives in Europe or the UK or Ireland is the British and Irish Lions playing Argentina this Friday night, 8 p.m, showing on Sky Sports and in Dublin or whatever sports channel hosts your rugby games. Really interesting fixture, this one, and I won't be doing this for every Lions fixtures. Probably will be for when the tests come around for Australia. But I think this is really cool to look at and predict, because my prediction is all the teams that had finals last weekend probably won't be playing their players. So Leinster, that's obviously a huge contingent of this British and Irish Lions squad. Leicester Tigers have one player, and Bath also have, I think, just Finn Russell. Are there any other Bath players? I don't think so. So this is a real chance for a lot of the tourists that probably aren't favourites to start in the tests to get a start against Argentina. So kind of going with that philosophy, I'm just going to stick the team up on the sheet here, and I'll just talk through the team just in terms of what the full 23 are. So I think in the front row, we've got Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan-Dickie and Finlay Bealham. In the second rows, Mario Itoje, Ty Byrne. And then in the back rows, we've got Tom Curry, Henry Pollock, Ben Earl. In the back line, scrum half, Alex Mitchell, fly half of Finn Smith, centres, Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones. Wingers of Matt Hansen, Duhan van der Merwe, fullback Elliot Daly. And then on the bench, we've got Ronan Kelleher, Pierre Schumann, and I put Ty Furlong in there. We'll talk about that, obviously playing for Leinster, and he's injured, and that's subject to change, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Scott Cummings, Jack Morgan, Thomas Williams, Marcus Smith, Tommy Freeman. Cool. Talk about the front row then, a little bit in more detail. Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan-Dickie, Finlay Bealham. Ellis Genge, I think, is probably the favourite to start there, because it's the choice between him and Pierre Schumann, and I definitely think Ellis Genge is in more form. Luke Cowan-Dickie, I think the same story in terms of Jamie George and him. He's obviously getting the start a lot more for England these days as well, over in the Six Nations. Finlay Bealham, boy, great story for Finlay Bealham. Getting selected for the Lions now that Xander Fagerson has unfortunately been ruled out of the tour. Seeing as he plays for, I believe, Connaught or Ulster. I think I can't remember which Irish team, but it's definitely not Leinster. So he will be starting this weekend, I think, at tight head prop. Second rows, Mario Itoje, tour captain, fully expect him to start and probably finish the game. Ty Byrne, playing for Munster. Honestly, to be honest with you, this feels like it's the second row partnership of the test matches. So I don't think there's going to be any difference there. These are the favourites, I think, in terms of playing quality that they've had this year. Back rows, right. So this is probably where I'll get English bias coming in as a comment. But to be honest with you, Henry Pollock, up until the Champions Cup final, where he was a bit, he wasn't a major factor. He's just the informed player right now. Ben Earl, I think, has been amazing at 8 for the last 2 years, and Tom Curry has been incredible. Everyone's probably going to say English back row bias, but I honestly think this English back row has done such a good job throughout the Six Nations. Obviously, I think probably Ben Curry would be in that position other than Henry Pollock for a lot of the games, but Ben Curry's not in the squad, right? They did such a good job, I think, of being mobile in a lot of the Six Nations games, stifling attacking plays. A lot of the frustration, a lot of kind of the knock-ons and forcing play and pressure has come from that back row selection. I think they're a little bit underrated if you're not English. So I fully expect them to start. Alex Mitchell has been in the form of his life since he's probably got selected for the Lions. He was amazing for England in the Six Nations, but then playing for Northampton, he was probably one of the few Northampton players in the Champions Cup final that had a stormer of a game, even though he was behind a pack that was getting a little bit physically dominated. Finn Smith, boy, goes from strength to strength, doesn't he? For a young guy, he's looking like a really great 10, and he's got a huge future ahead of him. A real stabling force in a 10 shirt as well. It's going to be interesting to see the differences between him and Finn Russell. Finn Russell is obviously the super talented, super spin it out, get it out distributor, super exciting playmaker. But what we did see, I think, in the Premiership final is Finn Russell's ability to control a game as well, which is what Finn Smith is famous for. So there's a big juxtaposition between these two fly halves in the future, and I fully expect Finn Smith to be getting the start on Friday. A lot of that as well, I think, is to do with Marcus Smith and the way he plays. I think Marcus Smith needs a lot of chemistry with the rest of the back line, and within like a week of training, there's not a lot there, not a lot of time to build that. So for a bit more of a grounded performance to kind of be a glue guy between all the team players, I think Finn Smith is the better selection at that 10 shirt. Talking about the centres, talking about chemistry, Tuipulotu, Hugh Jones. Because they've both been so good for club and country and they play together, it just makes sense. The other selection, I think, would be Bundyaki in that 12 shirt. I wouldn't question it. I think Bundyaki has the advantage of obviously being coached under Andy Farrell, and watching the recent kind of Lions videos that they've been releasing on social media. I think a lot of that looks to show a huge amount of leadership that Bundyaki has. He's constantly seems like he's talking to players in like group meetings and stuff like that, having fun with the players. I could see Bundyaki coming in and being in that 12 shirt just as a bit of a leadership role to start off the tour, just to kind of have that going forward. Not saying that Mario Itoje is not that, but a leadership role both in the pack and in the back line is never going to go amiss, right? Wingers. So I've gone for Mac Hansen and Duhan van der Merwe. Duhan van der Merwe, I think, is a little bit obvious. Obviously, no James Lowe, who I think would be starting on the other wing. But I've gone for Mac Hansen. Reason being, again, is that Irish connection, having a leadership, knowing what has to be done, the work rate as well of coming off their own wing, supporting Finn Smith on like inside lines off of first phase ball, second phase ball, third phase ball, fourth, five, every phase ball, right? Good under the high ball for his size. And yeah, I just see him going in there, and he just feels like more of a glue guy than Tommy Freeman does for the rest of the players on this team, if that makes sense. Although there's a reason that Tommy Freeman, again, is on the bench for me. But we'll get into that when we talk about the bench. Elliot Daly, fullback. I know people are going to be thinking, why are you putting Elliot Daly fullback? Hugo Keenan injured. Presume he's not available for this game. He could be, and if he is, then I expect him to start. But I'm working with what I've got here, and Hugo Keenan was injured for Leinster's URC final. And Blair Kinghorn is still playing for Toulouse. He's not on the tour yet. Ipso facto, your two choices for fullback are either Elliot Daly or Marcus Smith. There's no one else that can really play that position within the squad. So don't come at me saying that Elliot Daly has been fantastic for both Saracens and England at that fullback shirt, or a 13 shirt, or a winger shirt, and so he's fully deserved of it. But I don't want anybody coming at me saying, why are you putting Elliot Daly at 15 in this shirt? It just makes sense. Okay. Bench: Ronan Kelleher, Pierre Schumann, Tide Furlong as the front row replacements. I know what I've just said about Hugo Keenan being in that position where he's been injured for the URC final. However, this is different because there are no other tight head props in this squad. There's no other. Will Stewart just played in the Premiership final, although he came off the bench, so maybe he comes into this shirt. That's it. Tide Furlong's the only other. There's 3 tight heads in this entire squad. I presume that Tide Furlong, I guess he's... You know what? Fuck it. Tide Furlong, swap him out, put Will Stewart in. Will Stewart coming off the bench, plays 30 minutes against Leicester Tigers. Seeing as he's healthy, he's probably going to be on the bench and just limit his minutes there. That's my prediction. Changing it last minute on the fly for you. Scott Cummings, good to have a good, solid, like, specialist in the second row shirt that you can rely on in case Itoje or Ty Bird goes down. I think, yes, we've got Jack Morgan as the back row replacement, but we can also bring Scott Cummings on if one of the back rowers gets injured in, like, that 6 shirt and move either Ty Bird or Itoje to 6. They can do that. There's that flexibility. But because of that, I think it's a really solid pick to just have an out-and-out second row in case one of those second rows get injured. Can't remember how many times I've said second row. There's a reason he's in there. is because you want a dedicated second row shirt with none of those back rowers being able to fill in that position should that situation occur. Thomas Williams, there is no other scrum half other than Jamison Gibson-Park, who was injured for the URC final. And then we're talking about the back replacements. Marcus Smith can play 10 or 15. So if Elliot Daly goes injured or Finn Smith goes off injured, Marcus Smith can cover both of them. Tommy Freeman can play outside centre, can play winger. So if a winger gets injured or Hugh Jones gets injured or Tuipulotu gets injured, there's that flexibility there. I do see maybe Tommy Freeman gets replaced for Bundyaki if Bundiaki's not starting. That could be another situation that happens. That final back shirt for the bench, I think, is fascinating for me. Not 100% sure who will be starting there. But that's my prediction. Let me know what you think. Who do you think is going to be starting in this first Lions test? Is it a test? Let me know that. I have no idea. Feels weird that we're having an international game to start off the Lions tour, especially at home. That feels very different. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting this tour kicked off. Yeah, that's it.